These experiments were not done by criminals. They were done by scientists in universities with funding and permission. The people or the subject inside them were not villains. They were students, children, orphans. And when the experiments ended, the research was saved for future generation. But the people inside these experiments were not saved. Listen to the dark science experiments or 5 psychological experiments that have destroyed lives. Come to first, the Stanford prison experiment. Year 1971, place Stanford University, California, USA. Scientist who conducted this experiment was called Philip Zimbardo. 24 healthy college students volunteered. They were told it would last for 2 weeks. These college students were divided into 2 groups, prisoners and guards. The prison was built in the basement of the Stanford University. The guards were given uniform and power, endless power, whereas the prisoners were locked up and given numbers. What happened within 2 days of this experiment? Guards began insulting prisoners, and on the other hand, prisoners became scared and confused. In fact, one prisoner student cried uncontrollably and had to be removed in between. The experiment, which had to last for 2 weeks, was stopped on day 6. Not because any rule was broken, but because people changed too fast. And many students later said that the experience stayed with them for years. What is the cold truth behind this experiment? Give normal people power, and many of them will use this power without mercy, without thinking. This takes us to the second dark science experiment. It was called the Milgram experiment or the obedience experiment. Occurred in the year 1961, place Yale University, USA. Scientist who conducted it was called Stanley Milgram. What happened under this? Men were invited to join a science experiment. They were told it was about memory. Each experiment had 3 people involved. A scientist who would control the entire area. Second, a man who would press buttons. He was called the teacher. And third, a man who would answer questions asked by the teacher. This man was called learner. So remember, a scientist, then a teacher, that is the man pressing buttons and asking questions, and third, learner or the man answering questions. But let me tell you, the teacher did not know this, that the learner would only be acting. The learner was taken into another room and tied to a chair. The teacher sat in front of a big machine with electric shock, with buttons controlling electric shock. Yes, each time a question was asked by the teacher to the learner. If the learner answered incorrectly, the teacher was asked to press a button and give electric shock to the learner. Oh God. At first, the learner complained. After that, he screamed. And when the electric shock kept on going up, he begged to stop. But he became silent after that. The teacher wanted to stop giving electric shocks, but the scientist controlling everything calmly told the teacher, "Please continue. This experiment requires that you continue." This way, the teacher did not shout. He was not forced. He followed. He followed pressing the buttons and giving electric shock to the learner. He did believe that he was seriously hurting another human being. Later, when they were told the truth, the teachers said that they were disturbed by their own actions. And what is the cold truth behind this experiment? When authority speaks calmly, or when you are told by an authoritative person what to do, you yourself stop thinking. Oh, this was experiment number 2 in our list of dark science experiments. Now let's come to experiment number 3. It is called the Little Albert experiment. Took place in the year 1920, place, John Hopkins Hospital, USA. Scientist who conducted this experiment was John B. Watson. A baby named Little Albert was chosen for this experiment. A little baby who could not speak, who was too young, too little, who was of course not afraid of animals. A cat would make Albert smile, a rat would make Albert smile, but this experiment demanded something else. Albert was given few harmless animals around him, a cat, a rabbit, a rat. Whenever he tried to touch these harmless animals, a loud metal noise was made behind him. A loud metal noise would cling behind Albert if he touches any animal. So Albert cried. He tried to touch the animal again and the metal sound hardened. This was repeated again and again, and soon little Albert started crying just by seeing the animal. Not just an animal, even a toy or a mask kept in front of him after that became very scary for him. This way the experiment ended, but no one tried to help little Albert unlearn this fear. What is the cold truth behind this experiment? A child cannot give consent, and the damage will always remain. These were 3 dark science experiments. I really want to continue to the other 2, but for that, please follow my upcoming video. This is Heena from Tell a Tale with Heena. Take care of yourself and do not take extra power, extra authority, or harm someone else in the name of experiments.